Crowfeather's Trial, Chapter 2. Crowfeather chased a rabbit across the moor, reveling in the feeling of the cold wind flowing through his fur, and the strength of his own muscles as bunched and stretched to propel him effortlessly after his prey. He raced along so fast he felt as if his paws hardly touched the tough moorland grass. A hole in the bank loomed up ahead, the entrance to one of the tunnels. The rabbit plunged into it, and without hesitating, Crowfeather followed. He chased the rabbit down the tunnels that twisted far more than he remembered, growing narrower and narrower until he could feel his fur brushing both sides of the blackness. At last Crowfeather halted, his flanks heaving. He couldn't scent the rabbit any more, or hear the scrabble of its paws on the stone floor of the tunnel. Damp cold struck up through his pads, and he realized with the first string of panic that the passage was too narrow for him to turn around. He had no idea where he was. Slowly now, Crowfeather began to pad forward, his heart pounding as he felt water flowing around his paws, growing deeper as he struggled onward. Cats have drowned down here, he thought. His belly fur was brushing the water when he spotted a feeble, flickering light ahead of him. Hoping he had found a way out, he waded on more rapidly, until he came to a place where the tunnel wall was scooped out at one side to form a kind of den. Crowfeather's jaws dropped open with shock and disbelief as he recognized the cat who was sitting there. "Ashfoot!" he croaked out. His mother sat with her head erect and her tail wrapped around her paws. Crowfeather couldn't tell where the pale light was coming from. It seemed to radiate from Ashfoot, yet she didn't have the frosty glitter on her fur that was the mark of a Starkling cat. As Ashfoot spotted her son, she stood up and fled down the tunnel, her paws seeming to skim the surface of the water. "Wait!" Crowfeather yelled, splashing clumsily after her. "Don't leave me, Ashfoot!" But she was gone, and the light was gone with her. Crowfeather was alone in the darkness, with water lapping around his shoulders. "Ashfoot, why are you here?" he asked, as if his mother could still hear him. "Why are you not in StarClan?" No answer came back, only Ashfoot's voice raised in a screech that echoed around the tunnel like a roll of thunder. Terror shook Crowfeather from ear to tail tip, and startled awake to find himself in the warrior's den, under the stars. He lay panting and trembling as the horrific vision receded. What was that? Just a dream? Or was what Hooppaw saw in the tunnel entrance truly a ghost? The ghost of Ashfoot? Is she trying to send me a message? As soon as the idea occurred to Crowfeather, he gave his head an angry shake, annoyed with himself for thinking something so mouse-brained. But he couldn't let go of the idea. If Ashfoot was trying to tell me something, what could it be? Once more, Crowfeather tried to shrug off the feeling, telling himself not to be a fool. In his dream, Ashfoot's fur had been gray, just as it was when she was alive, not the shining white Hooppaw described, and that he had glimpsed himself at the tunnel. Besides, it can't be ghosts, he told himself. Smokey was probably just being stupid. At the same time, Crowfeather still felt shaken to the depths of his belly. He got only troubled snatches of sleep before the sky began to pale toward dawn. The sun had not yet risen when One Star's voice rang commandingly across the camp. "Let all cats old enough to catch their own prey join me here beneath the tall rock for a clan meeting." Crowfeather struggled to his paws to see One Star perched on top of the tall rock, his figure outlined against the brightening sky. Hairspring and Kestrel Flight were standing at the base of the rock. Is all this really necessary? Just to announce who'll be going on the patrol today? Crowfeather wondered, stretching his paws in a massive yawn. Or was there more the leader needed to say? Around Crowfeather, more of the warriors were rising from their nests, shaking scraps of moss from their pelts, and shivering in the early morning chill. Crowfeather spotted Nightcloud and Breezepelt padding out into the open to sit side by side near the tall rock. One of Crowfeather's forelegs twitched as if to walk over and sit with them. Then he turned away and took his position on the other side of the group of gathered cats. They wouldn't want me to sit with them anyway, he thought, surprised to feel heaviness in his chest. Whitetail and Whiskernose emerged from the elder's den, and the disused badger said, "What's got into his fur now?" Whiskernose muttered, pushing to scratch himself vigorously behind one ear. "Whatever it is, couldn't it wait until the sun's up?" All four apprentices scrambled out of their den and propped themselves down in a furry heap at the edge of the gathering crowd. Crowfeather guessed that from their wide eyes and excited looks that they were expecting monstrous news. And Oatpaw, Leaftail's apprentice, who hadn't been with the hunting patrol the previous day, looked just as thrilled as the rest. So much for telling Hooppaw not to talk about it, Crowfeather thought wryly. That Featherbrain has probably told all of the apprentices by now. Sedgewhisker padded to the edge of the warrior's den and sat down to groom herself, while Emberfoot bounded over to sit beside her. Larkwing was heading over to join them when the two other cats turned a chilling look on her. Crowfeather saw Larkwing veer away and crouch down next to Whiskernose. "I don't like the look of that," Crowfeather thought. "We shouldn't treat the Dark Forest cats badly, not anymore." He reminded himself uncomfortably of the time when he had returned to WayneClan after leaving with Leafpool. He had been on the receiving end of cold looks like that. It had been many moons before all of his clanmates had accepted him again. If they ever did. Maybe it'll take just as long for the Dark Forest cats to be considered new true clanmates. But the meeting was about to start, and Crowfeather had no time to give any more thought to what he had seen. One star's gaze swept over the camp, checking that all the cats had assembled. Kestrel Flight visited the Moonstone last night for the half-moon meeting, he began evenly. He had a vision there, a vision that both he and I found troubling. Kestrel Flight, please tell the clan what you have told me. Crowfeather felt a stirring of anticipation as the young medicine cat drew himself up to address the crowd. Arcface came to me last night in StarClan, he announced. He gave me a vision about the tunnels that lie between our territory and ThunderClan's. Crowfeather was instantly alert, feeling his pads prickle with apprehension. This couldn't be a coincidence. It had to have something to do with what he and Hootpaw had seen the day before. Or maybe it's to do with my dream. Barkface showed me the tunnel entrances, Kestrel Flight went on. And as I watched, I saw dark water gushing out of them in large and huge torrents. The kind of deluge that could sweep cats away completely down and completely drown the camp. As he spoke, anxious murmurs rose from the cats around him. Crowfeather saw many of them exchanging fearful looks. It sounded as if a terrible fate was creeping up on WindClan, and as if they were being stalked by some huge predator. Crowfeather was just thankful that Barkface, the former WindClan medicine cat, was watching over them. At least StarClan is giving us a warning. At first, Kestrel Flight continued, a wild wind kicked up and drove the water back. But eventually the wind dropped and the water kept rushing and gushing into a second huge wave until it swallowed up everything. The motley gray Tom wind set the memory, and the sound of it was unbearably loud. Crowfeather suppressed a shiver as he remembered the horrible moment in his dream when he had stood alone in the dark tunnel with water up to his shoulders. What does it mean? Emberfoot called out from where she sat behind Sedgewhisker. Kestrel Flight hesitated for a moment before replying. I think it means something dangerous is lurking in the tunnels, he mewed evenly. The way the wind controlled the water suggested a WindClan cat will win this conflict, but the wind also dropped suddenly. Perhaps it means it'll be a tough battle. For a moment, the WindClan cats gazed at one another in silence. Then a sudden clamor broke out, the cats calling out ideas of what the vision might mean, and then arguing with one another's suggestions. One star yelled for silence, but no cats were listening. The tunnels did flood before. Weaselfur's voice rose above the rest. Maybe it's gonna happen again. Now the clan was silent, pondering his words. After a moment, Hairspring mewed. You could be right, but I and the rest of the patrol who were with me yesterday scented something weird at the tunnel entrances, and Hootpaw saw ghost cats! Hootpaw interrupted, leaping to his paws with his shoulder for bristling. I saw ghost cats! The apprentice stood tall, his chest puffed out. Crowfeather guessed that even though he was scared, Hootpaw was enjoying the attention and the feeling of importance his announcement gave him. Nightcloud was giving him an annoyed glance, as if she didn't like to see her apprentice showing off at a clan meeting. I'm not a medicine cat, but I can see tick duty in Hootpaw's future, Crowfeather thought with a wry sort of amusement. Yav's disbelief and confusion greeted Hootpaw's words, while one whisker flicked his tail in irritation. Very well, he snapped. Hootpaw, tell the clan what you saw. Ghost cat! Hootpaw responded, his eyes round with awe. It was all white and glowing, and it stared at me like it wanted to give me a message. A message with you? Whiskernose sniffed dismissively. Why would it give a message to an apprentice? And what was the message? Gorsetail asked. Hootpaw gave his chest for an embarrassed lick. It didn't say. It just vanished into the tunnel again. Heathertail added a morale of amusement. Or maybe it sprouted wings and flew away. It did not! Hootpaw exclaimed indignantly. I know what I saw, and Crowfeather saw it too. Crowfeather tensed as to not shrink backward as every cat turned their gaze onto him. I caught a glimpse of something, he admitted, but it wasn't a ghost cat. There's no such thing as ghost cats. To his dismay, many of his clanmates were looking scared, as if they believed what Hootpaw had told to them. They didn't seem to share his denial of ghosts. Instead, they were exchanging nervous glances, their eyes wide with dismay as they murmured doubtfully to one another. Do you all have bees in your brain? Crowfeather wondered. Do you think it could be the Dark Forest cats? Crouchfoot asked, his voice quivering. They have come back to get their revenge? Of course not. Whisker Nose asserted with a contemptuous flick of his tail. Dark forest cats wouldn't come back as white, would they? White is sort of like StarClan. These must be cats who fought on our side. Kestrelfight. Not every cat who died in the Great Battle has been seen in StarClan yet, right? Though Kestrelfight was looking definitely uneasy with all these suggestions, he shook his head. No, they haven't, he replied. So maybe there's a way to bring them back, Larkwing suggested excitedly. Annoyance prickled at Crowfeather's pelt as if a whole clan of ants were crawling through it. Dead cats can't come back, he snapped. Except for leaders who have lives left. For StarClan's sake, Larkwing, don't you understand death? The pale brown tabby drew back her lips and hissed at him, but then looked away, saying nothing more. Crowfeather instantly felt guilty. The young she-cat was obviously having a tough time in the clan, and he hadn't meant to make it worse. Great StarClan! She was only an apprentice at the time of the Great Battle. She hardly knew how to groom her own fur. In any case, One Star meowed, raising his tail to draw his clan's attention. It wasn't a ghost cat, but they're all animals who might have gone to live in the tunnel and could be threats to us. The prey has gone scarce for a while in that part of the territory, and it suggests that we're dealing with something real. Good point, Crouchfoot murmured, looking slightly happier. So, I've decided to send a patrol to the tunnels to see what to find. One Star went on. Meanwhile, we all need to be careful. If these are hostile creatures living there, we must be ready to fight. Of course we are, Heathertail called. We're warriors! One Star nodded. Heathspring will lead the patrol, he announced. Already volunteers to go with them? For a moment no cat answered. They only murmured among themselves, exchanging doubtful glances. If we might be fighting dark forest ghost cats, Crotchfoot murmured, then we should send Breeze Pelt. Crowfeather glanced across at his son and saw that his face wore the one wounded, angry look that was so familiar now. Clearly, Crotchfoot's words had hurt him. Crowfeather also knew that this was a challenge Breezepelt would not want to meet. As a young cat, he had been caught in a flood that raged through the tunnels, and he had been terrified of them ever since. Crowfeather had felt a pang of sympathy for him, and was about to open his jaws to defend his son when, to his surprise, Breezepelt stepped forward, his chest puffed out proudly. Yes, he mewed. I'll go. One Star looked impressed, dipping his head towards Breezepelt. There speaks a true wing-clan warrior, he announced to the others. How about that? Crowfeather was surprised to see Breezepelt volunteering for such a dangerous task, and a little bit impressed. But elsewhere around the tall rock came murmurs of disapproval. Clearly not all cats agreed with their leader's praise. The murmurs were silenced as Nightcloud stepped forward beside her son. I'll go too, she stated. Crowfeather caught a glance exchanged between his former mate and their son, hers protective and motherly, and his thankful. He huffed out his breath and trying to ignore the pain like a piercing thorn inside of the